everyone to this special live recording of Humans of Fintech, where we get very real about the people building the future of finance. I'm your host, Nicole Casperson. And tonight we're honoring two women who prove that leadership in fintech is as much about people as it is about product, and that growth happens when you connect the right dots. First up, our honoree, Nicole Mitchell. Nicole is a partner at Aprio with over 25 years helping C-level leaders and entrepreneurs scale, solve big problems, and plan for what's next. She's known as a champion for change, technology adoption, and building solutions that work end-to-end. From leaving high school early to becoming one of the top scorers on the CPA exam, woo, Nicole has redefined what's possible, building practices, advising game-changing companies, and creating space for entrepreneurs to focus on their passion, something I'm very passionate about as well. And joining us, as well as our special guest co-host, is Tiffany Haynes. She is an investor, advisor, and former COO of Fingercheck, where she scaled a bootstrapped fintech from $11 million to $24 million in revenue and led it through a $150 million exit in just 3 years. I know.
I took a nap today.
I know. We have a lot to discuss. Now, before that, she spent nearly 2 decades at Jack Henry, leading large-scale transformations and overseeing teams of over 600 people. Tiffany is a master at scaling companies without losing their soul and a fierce advocate for putting people at the center of growth. So we have 2 women with playbooks for building, scaling, and leading. I'm so excited to jump into this conversation. Let's go?
Let's go.
Okay, all right, amazing. So first, a little test for the audience. Now, a quick show of hands. How many of you have ever been in a season of your life where you've had to just completely pivot from whatever you were doing and just change? Yep. Okay,
There
good.
you go.
Yeah. No, wait. No, but keep your hands up if it felt completely terrifying in the moment. Yeah, we've all been scared a little bit. Literally, I'm terrified every day. Now,
No hands went down, by the way.
yeah, no hands went down. So that's good because you're in the right room, right? Tonight is about those moments, the inflection points, the bold bets, and how you lead when you really just don't have a roadmap at all. My first question is for Nicole. Now, your path from not graduating high school to top CPA score is incredible, inspiring, all the things. In your own words, how did you go from there to building a career where you've stayed at the same firm for 27 years, but also reinvented your role just over and over?
So it's funny, you said bold bets. Mm-hmm. I would say I made a bold bet on myself.
Yes.
And I left high school early. And that bold bet, I'm glad it worked out, because if it didn't work out, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yes.
So I move fast. I'm always challenged by what could be new and what's possible. And I would say the one reason that I've stayed at the same firm for 27 years is because I'm not doing the same thing. I had to reinvent myself. I had to take on the next challenge. And most of the people that I see that are successful at places that they've stayed long periods of time is every time a challenge came up, they said, who would take that challenge on? And I raised my hand in the room and said, I'll take that opportunity and I'll see what comes up next. And I'm happy to say when I started with the firm, it looks nothing like what it looks like today. We had 70 employees. And I don't remember how much revenue, because at that time, I wasn't privy to that kind of information. I was a staff person starting out. Today, we have 2,300 employees. We have 35 office locations. We have 2 international offices. And I would say that my job is completely different. In my career path, I stayed at the same place because I was in a supportive environment where I could make my own career path. And I chose what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it speaks volumes, obviously, to you in making bold bets on yourself, but also to the organization that you're at, right? The company, to that. I was about to say, because for me, I have not worked anywhere that long. In fact, obviously, but I also, because I look so young. But anyway, sorry, I was like elephant in the room. But also because I, went off to become an entrepreneur. But I love that you have this builder mentality, right? Almost like within this big firm, or what was once a small firm and became one. But you're someone who launches practices and then hands them off once they're running. I feel like maybe that's a part of why you're able to keep doing the next thing. What has driven you to just keep reinventing while you're at the same place? Because I feel like it's probably easy to be complacent in one role.
It's funny. Complacency was running through my mind as we were first talking, and I was like, complacency is not an option.
Okay.
And I'm also driven by curiosity. Anyone who knows me knows I love a great whiteboard exercise. Like, what are the possibilities? Like, let's throw them up. What could we do next? But then what I really like doing is creating the opportunity once we've done the build is actually teaching other people that kind of brain exercise for the build, right? And then handing it off to them. And I love watching them add their own flair. So it's really important to me as a leader to bring other leaders up. I have many people in the audience today that they're partners in the firm now, and they're partners in the firm because they took those ideas that we created on a whiteboard and then they made it their own. And I always knew that the firm or practice group or anything was never going to be bigger than me if it depended on me.
Wow. That's, I mean, preach. Yeah, you can clap for that. Yeah, that's great. Well, because it's like this selfless mindset a bit that I think when you're within a firm and at a big company can be hard to have, because you are like wanting to always like fight for your own next step and like your own thing. So for you to have that understanding of, oh, if I just build something that I can then hand off to the next person, that elevation of them elevates me as well. That's
Just like your clients, they become raving fans.
No, I love it. I love it. And was there a moment in your career that made you just say, you know what, I'm not just an accountant. I'm actually this, builder, this innovator, this advisor who really helps people connect the dots?
Okay, so for this one, I think I'm going to flip to like what I do for clients.
Okay.
And first of all, most accounting professionals really, really quickly become much more than an accountant to their clients if they're good.
Oh, it's true.
They become like the trusted advisor. Example, flying to New York this week, I'm taking a call, and it's a client calling me for advice to prepare for a meeting she had coming up, because she knew accountants become really well connected. And the question was, I've got this meeting coming up. I know you know this guy that's in the meeting. How should I handle that? Other scenarios, just a week ago, I had someone reach out and I thought they were calling me about their account, what's going on. And they said, I need a real estate broker in X area. So very quickly, you become this holistic advisor. And the other thing that's really remarkable about that is most of the time when you're working with entrepreneurs, think about it. Their biggest investment, not only in money, capital, their time, is their business. It is their personal wealth. And so being able to connect the dots and help them create personal wealth is the end objective. One thing that I find that's really unique at Aprio and why I just embrace this firm and love what we do is that's the way we serve our clients. We want to serve that whole client. We want to meet them where they're at and help them achieve their objectives to a point where a lot of our tax partners are also certified financial planners, right? Because the goal is I'm going to do an amazing exit, right? And where am I going to go next, or what am I going to do next? So that happened. I mean, I've got some really personal stories where I think the first time I had a turning point, I had a client that called me, not about accounting. You might not want to hear this right now, but they were getting a divorce.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I'm cool with that. I thought you were going to say their business is shutting down. I'm cool.
And we had to pivot.
We ain't getting divorced. But
Not getting divorced. But we had to pivot because her main objective at that point in time was, how do I keep the business? How do I own it 100%? At that time, this owner was doing about $2 million in revenue. She just signed a lease to take on her first office space, I think pre-COVID. And then fast forward 15 years after that, she had her first exit at $80 million. Brought private equity in. The next exit was at $350 million. Nice. 3 years later, didn't get your 2, but 3 years later. And I go back and I'm like, we had to connect the dots. We had to say, what was that client's objective and goal? And we looked at it and we're like, man, that was a huge success story. But that could have turned out very differently if the advisor had just said, hey, let me help you with your taxes at the end of the year.
Right.
Let me figure something out.
Right.
So really quickly you become a trusted advisor in all aspects. You wouldn't think in a divorce.
No, that's beautiful. Especially if you like for a female client in particular, right? Like for her to have that ownership and that wealth and to have you there to advise through that. And I'm sure there was some advising on some other things like that kind of happen.
Lots of wine involved.
Right. But I love that you mentioned the personal, because I think far too often we don't remember that. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I'm bootstrapping Fintech is Femme with my husband. And it's like, and also you're I love my accountant Holly on every one of these episodes she gets a shout out because we love her. Although watch out, Holly, because Nicole's saying some good things.
That's right.
So when I'm ready for you,
I'm here.
when I'm ready for you, I'll come. We're connected now,
We're
forever,
connected. Forever.
on the internet.
I can connect your dots.
Yeah, exactly.
Get you to that end objective.
Whew. Thank you. Butter me up. Anyways, okay, I love it. Tiffany, you have spent nearly 20 years at Jack Henry, taking on a new role every 2 years. So you have this in common. Then you left corporate life to lead a young bootstrap fintech. Take us back. Why did you make the leap, and what made you say yes to Fingercheck?
So I was probably 2 or 3 years out from my next promotion. So I had a very clear up and to the right path laid out for me, which was wonderful and required lots of asking. Not easy, but wonderful. But I was not super excited for, like, you kind of keep doing the same thing, like with the structure of the organization I was in. You kind of kept doing the same thing, but like just at a larger scale. And I was like, this is really repetitive. Like, and I'm going to have to repeat myself at a larger scale for the next 8 years to kind of get to that, that big thing I wanted to get to. And so I had a mentor pull me to the side, who was also a board member at the time. And they just said, hey, like, you're set up for this, and this. Like, why aren't you excited?
Yeah.
I'm like, I know I should want this, right? Like, I'm the youngest female executive. I have a very clear career path. Like, I have everything somebody would want, right? And why am I not excited? So it was a tough conversation where I had to pause and just be like, okay, I have a very well-defined, I know the culture, I know the politics, I know how to get things done, but I'm not excited. So that was kind of my aha moment where I made the decision of like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to go do, but I am going to leave. So I did, tell a couple people close to me in the company, like, I think I'm going to exit. I have no idea what I'm going to do next, which was really scary. Like, I had been at the company for 20 years. Like, nobody anticipated me leaving. This was like a jaw dropper once the announcement was made. And then I had a mutual friend in the industry, and he's like, hey, I want you to come get on a phone call. I want you to meet Joel. He's got this company up in Brooklyn. Mind you, I live in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, Brooklyn, what? I was like, okay, like, I love a good product story. So I met Joel, founder, CEO, completely bootstrapped company, very tech and product oriented, had a great, like, 1 or 2 hour call with him. And I really didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I was like, oh, like, Shane was like, hey, maybe you'll sit on the board, or like, do you just want advice for them? I'm like, yeah, like, I'm discovering, right? I'm not making any commitments. And like a few weeks passed by, and Shane calls me. I was like flying from Kentucky home, and he's like, Joel doesn't want to run the company anymore. Come be the COO. We want to double the revenue, exit in a few years. Like, are you ready? And I'm like, I've never met anybody in person. Like, I've never been to Brooklyn before. I was like, let's go.
Let's go.
I'm doing it.
Yeah. So that's what we did.
But you felt that excitement.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It was like, I felt the momentum. I was like, they had the right indicators, right? I wasn't going in blind. Like, the product was there, the market fit was there. They already had 5,000 clients. They were growing at a good clip. They were just stuck in founder mode, right? And so it's like, okay, we got to get outside this market, push a little harder, build it out, build the structure out, scale it out, which I was very proficient at doing. And like, we can figure this out, right? So that was the yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Good one.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Because I think these are like the inflection points that kind of teach you, and you kind of have to decide too, like, what kind of leader do you want to be? And so I would love to hear about your own reflections on that? Like, especially for you, Nicole, as you were, building and handing things off and growing, and it just kind of not being in your own lane within this big company. Like, when did you realize, like, this is the kind of leader I want to be? Like, did you sit down? I sit down with like a Google doc sometimes, and I'm like, this is how I want my life to look. Like, is that, how do you, or is there like something that happens that makes you like, that's the kind of like, I want to be an innovator. Like, what makes you realize that?
Yeah, I would say most of the time when I would think about, first of all, I'm really happy I'm a completely different leader today than I was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that's really important for everyone is I believe in constant improvement. So I'm always trying to improve and be a better leader. But I think what probably drove my leadership style to be, I would say, like a servant leader. I always want to make opportunity for others, and I want to make it bigger than me, is that I saw leaders that were in front of me that did that, and I liked it.
Yeah.
Right? And it gave me that great feel, and it gave me that excitement. I wanted to work hard for them. I wanted to like build something. They supported me in creating something new. And then you have other people that have leaders that have like a title. So I say leadership is definitely never a title, right? We all know that leadership is, to me, it's, do you have the trust and commitment of the team to accomplish complex tasks? And that is the leader. And so that's kind of the mantra that I hold to myself, trust and commitment are the two pillars. And I think that in all personal relationships, and I think that in everything that I accomplish, it's not an I, it's a we, and it's how we achieve the objective. And I would say that most people that have spent good time with me know that if they trust me and we have commitment together, dude, we are gonna crush it.
Yeah.
Man, there is like nothing holding us back. And I would say, my firm merged in with Aprio. And that was a really pivotal time, right? Like, I had become the chair of the board of directors of the firm.
Wow.
We had strategic objectives, but the most important thing that we needed was we needed trust together and a commitment that we were going to join Aprio and rock it. And you know what? We did.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, trust and commitment.
Yeah, that commitment.
And then watching others in the marketplace that maybe didn't do that and watching how that played out for them. And
I want to point out how important it is to, when you see something that you like and you see something that you want to aspire to, that there's truly something amazing about just like that lighting a fire in you and you being like, I want to do that too, like that for others, right? For me, it falls very much in like, you can't be what you can't see. So until you kind of see it, then you're truly able to say, oh, I can replicate that for myself. Like for me, that's what I love so much about the work that I do in media, is that I'm literally putting women like you on a podcast so that others will listen. The thousands and thousands of people are going to listen to this, no pressure, and read about it in my newsletter, to then say, I can be like Nicole, like I can be like Tiffany, I can be like this other Nicole, I can be like Christine Nicole, whatever, from Row. But truly, that's actually what happens. And I get those messages. Like I get responses from my newsletter, from the show, from whatever, from women that are like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've heard anyone talk in a way that resonates with me. So I'm going to go do that. And I think that's you pointing that out. Like that's just something that I'm noticing about your story and what you've done. And that's really, really, truly incredible. So props to you. No, I love it. And so, and actually I want to ask Tiffany as well, because same to you. So the founder and CEO of this startup, this bootstrap startup, which is very, very personal as someone who knows that so well. But then you come in and he's like, I don't want to run this company anymore. You're going to come in. How in the hell do you like step in, get respect, do all of that on top of get enough of the team support to where you like double revenue with an exit in 2 years? Like what are some of your learnings there?
Well, I think Nicole hit on it. Like it's really about trust. So part of my decisioning with coming to Fingercheck is when I met Joel in person. And, there was lots of people like interviewing and chatting with me and trying to figure this out. Finally, it was just Joel and I in a room without everybody else like walking around. And I hadn't taken the job yet. I was still, pretty sure I was going to do it, but not sure yet. I was in Brooklyn first time, like, you know, everything was like a culture shock. But like we had just like this, just a little, like a little bit.
I live in Brooklyn.
And so we just had this like one-on-one conversation, and he's so humble. Like he's the tech and product guy, but he knows his lane, and he respects other people's lane. And like, once I figured that out, that we could have that trust and just that ability to connect and figure out hard things, then I was like, okay, we can do magical stuff together. Like that is a super important element. So I think that was one, like I had to know, and he had to know that we have a mission, we have a purpose, and we're going to do this together, right? The second part, which is probably maybe a little surprising, like I come to Brooklyn like 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and I go home. And every afternoon, like this was a payroll company. They were moving about $1 billion in transaction volume. Like I'm from fintech, but everything is different. Like I'd never done small business before. I'd only done enterprise. B2B is very, very, very different space. I wasn't super familiar with payroll, and definitely wasn't familiar with tax. Oh my gosh. Like, well, y'all, I needed some schooling, right? So like every afternoon I would come into Joel's office, and I would sit down with my list, and I'd be like, okay, I worked half a day and now I have no clue what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. So please answer my questions. And we just did that day after day after day. And that was super huge. And just trying to figure out, like, how do we make this work together? Because the more he taught me, the more just respect I had for what he built at that point. And that's so important especially when you're growing and scaling. Like you have to honor what was built, because you're not trying to destroy it, and you're not trying to completely change it either. Like there's goodness there that needs to stay and be kept, and you have to be really wise and discerning around like what needs to stay, and then what needs to kind of be weeded out so that we can grow to that next level. And so like, as we built that trust relationship, then it became easier to say, I know you thought that was a really good idea, but you're going to hate yourself in 5 years. So let's do it this way. Right. And so that dialogue became a lot easier, but those were like some key things that I really had to think about and take away and work on just practically, which was just sitting down like this. Right. And here's my list, like nothing special.
Yeah. Right. Like, trust, communication.
Yeah.
You know,
layered. Trust is layered.
Intention.
Yeah.
All the things that create a good relationship. Yeah. All the things that create a marriage. You know, right? 100%. Like all the things exactly that create good business. Communicating. Right. Yeah. All of the things that need to be in any relationship. Like we should bring more of these. We always have to have these things in mind in our personal, but also our business relationships as well. Especially now, I think with like.
Well, I think rupture and repair is so important. Yeah. Like things will rupture, right?
That's good. You'll go through some difficult times.
We don't agree. Yeah, like we don't agree. Like it's gonna rupture, but like, what are we gonna do with the rupture? And how are we gonna repair that, right? Yeah. And that's a big thing too. Like when you're growing so quickly, like if you keep sweeping the ruptures under the rug, then it gets so big you can't repair it when it comes time. So like you have to also be super intentional of like coming back to repairing that, even if it's just little stuff. Like I spouted off on that call, like I kind of sounded disrespectful, or I was
just like own it right away.
Yeah,
exactly. Owning it. Yeah, always 100%. Is always helpful. I love this, Nicole. A lot of the listeners on the show are going to be founders. Building in fintech, building in tech, finance. You work with entrepreneurs though from every industry, right? From snack brands to drone tech to contractors. Like, how do you actually give us a little bit of the roadmap for how you actually help founders connect the dots in their business?
So it doesn't really matter what my client does. I'm focused on what their end objective is.
Yes.
And so really in connecting the dots, you said something really remarkable. Like there's no specific roadmap. I always think of it as, I've got like this street map, and how we're going to get to the end goal is going to be really different. It's kind of like what we have to do when we're driving through New York City with Waze, right? Like I got to figure out, well, how am I going to get there fast, right? And so it's taking them through that path. But it's also having those difficult conversations with them at certain inflection points. and saying, in order to get to there, what do you have to give up today? And making those decisions. And so that's really critical. A lot of those conversations also happen over wine, also happen with the close advisors. But if you do them really well, I mean, I can give a story of we had a really successful exit last year at Aprio with a client, and they exited for $1 billion.
Whew. A lot of happy people out there, yeah.
Very happy. I'm not going to say the names, but that exit started 5 years before the exit.
Right.
And it started during the pandemic, and it started like late in the evening. There was wine involved. Talking with the CFO at the time. Some of the people that are sitting in the audience know exactly who I'm talking about. She's lovely, but the company was bootstrapped. They had no money. They had a really good product. They were like, if I could manufacture this, own the end-to-end supply chain, because they were selling to the government, we could really, really win. And she was really excited, but she's like, how the hell am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to get from here to there? So it was literally sitting down with her and saying, well, have you thought about this? It goes back to the whiteboard exercise. Love whiteboard exercises. What are the possibilities that are out there? I'm going to need to get financing out the wazoo. I'm going to have people invest in me. I'm going to have to scale my team. I'm going to have people work, and I really can't pay them much, but I need the best talent on this. So that takes a lot of trust. And we came up with like a scenario, 5 years before. It was like a phantom stock plan. They gave all the employees options into the plan, creatively worked together, right? And the phantom stock was at a triggering event if there was a sale, so it didn't have anything. I'm seeing some laughing in the room because these are really great ideas.
No, these are great ideas.
How we pulled it together. We figured out the financing. They had to go through federal audits, right, to make sure that they could sell it to the federal government. They need to make sure the supply chain was good, and we went through all those times, but what's really important about the advisor you have is I help them connect the dots, but in connecting the dots, each stage, I didn't have to control it. I got them the exact expert that they needed to handle something like a phantom stock plan. Think about the tax, think about your supply chain, and being able to bring all those pieces together. It was a really good party once we sold for $1 million.
I want one of those parties.
Great party.
Invite me to the next one.
But what was even more remarkable about that party was there was the employee number 2 that was the accounts payable clerk. I see people shaking their head. That walked away with $1 million because the owner had the trust. The owner had the trust and said, I can't bonus you for the next couple of years. I'm going to ask you so that we can keep up with this financing and this investment that we're going to have to make, that I'm going to need to pay you like the bare minimum. We looked at tax strategies, R&D tax strategy. If I'm not thinking about the one big beautiful bill, every one of you should be thinking about it as to what the tax strategies are and seeing how we could get more money back for that company so they didn't have to have outlay. It was everything involved. And so I think it's really important to have the right advisor that's pulling that all together for you, and somebody else who is really well connected to get you to the right place.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So good.
Also good. Such great ideas. Sorry. As I process them for myself.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. And thank you for showing us that roadmap. Because like I said, a lot of founders listening to this are going to be like, oh my gosh, I must know Nicole immediately. Should we just say your email on here now, or
Nicole Mitchell at aprio.com.
Good. Well, now you know where to find her. No, I love it. So, and Tiffany, for you at Fingercheck, you turned down acquisition offers until the timing and the company were ready.
Yeah.
What were some of the key moves that made that possible?
I specifically remember the summer before we actually decided to go through the process. Yeah, we had a big wrestling match around whether it was time or not, and we had gotten a couple offers, and they were good, but they were half what we got 2 years later. So I bring that to remembrance quite frequently. Like, aren't we glad?
Remember when I said?
Remember what I said? Don't take 75.
Timing is everything.
It totally is. But I think it's just, I know this sounds strange, but like you just know in your bones, like if you've done this before, like you just know the moment. And it's really about like, was the team structured correctly? Did I feel like the leaders were empowered and they could make their own decisions, right? Because you don't just like, even though you exit, like you still have a piece of it, right? And so you want to make sure it grows the next round too. So you don't want to screw it up and just be like, oh, here's what you got. Like, good luck, right? And so you want it to live on. You want to build a legacy. So we just weren't quite there yet of like, okay, I think we can do better on the revenue. I think we can do better on the marketing, our top of funnel, and closing our deals. Like, it just wasn't. It's never perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. But there is a point where you're like, okay, like this is working, like this is a repeatable process. It's not just praying all night and hoping it's going to work out. Like there's some machine work to the art.
Right.
And once you kind of, and every company is a little bit different, but like you kind of get that balance going and you're like, all right, this is good. The next person can take it and even do greater things than what I can do. And once you feel that, and you see kind of those indicators, then like it just knew, like, yeah, like it's hard to let go, but it's time.
Yeah. Oh.
Can I touch on that one a little bit?
Of course.
So we're having this conversation, so think about it. I'm also a partner at a firm, so I'm also an entrepreneur, right? And then I'm also serving entrepreneurs. But you're absolutely right. Timing's everything. I mean, I look at my own personal journey with my firm and my partners entering in, and when we merged in with Aprio, and what firm was right.
Yeah.
Right. And that really mattered because we were going to become one. And what's really important is, did our culture align? Did we have the same values? Were we serving the same markets? Were we going to be able to take 1 + 1 and make it 5?
Yeah.
Or not? And, it was pretty remarkable. I got to work with the CEO closely, Richard Kopelman. And I remember having our name of our transaction. It was T25, and we were going to be a top 25 US firm. And that was our goal. And we had many other starts previously before we merged in with Aprio where we stopped because something wasn't right or the timing wasn't right in the piece to be successful. And I mean, I think we're overnight just a wild success story by timing it right and finding the right partner.
Yeah. I mean, what is one myth maybe about scaling a business that you wish more founders understood?
Oh my gosh. I would say that growth solves all problems.
I like that one.
Growth solves some problems, a lot of problems, but growth, if not done well, where you haven't put the foundation in place, actually also exposes a lot of fractures.
Yeah.
So that would be the myth that I have. So a lot of times,
therapy coming.
So a lot of times someone will come to me and they'll be like, we're already scaled, we're growing. And it's kind of like, well, I want to grow there, get there really fast with you too, but we have to look at some other pieces.
All right.
Your myth.
All day.
All right, whatever.
I'm not as articulate. We were Fingercheck before we sold, I think it was 11 years. And if you ask Joel's probably a better one to ask this question, right? Because he was the founder. But we were reminiscing the other day, and he's like, the last 3 years was so much harder than the first 8. And he's like, because scaling was like, he's like, I walk in every day and everything's on my shoulders, right? And it's so true. Like when you're in founder mode, right? You are the accountant and you are the bookkeeper and you are the product person. I mean, even when you have 50 people, you very much can still be in founder mode. And so for him to have the courage to say, okay, this isn't going to get me to where we want to go, and to be able to work out of it, it was very, very hard for him. So that last 3 years was tough because he had to let go of everything. Like, okay, now you have a chief marketing officer and you have someone over sales, and you can't know everything about the product. You've got to make sure somebody else can do that too, right? And so it's very challenging, and it does show the cracks and the weak points, and that it's really hard to figure out how to fix because they do know everything. They're like incredibly savvy and intelligent, and not everybody is as passionate as they are, right? So how do you have puts and takes,
right?
And I think you said it really well, Nicole. Like, we're always making trade-offs, right? You have to give something up in order to get $150 million exit, right? That we're not sure is coming, right? Like we hope, right? But there was no guarantee. We didn't know for sure. Like, the goal was to double revenue, but I'm not sure. I think that the board would tell you today, they're like, it was just kind of a mantra, Tiffany. Like, we didn't think you were actually going to do it. Like, they're like, it's okay.
I think that goes on in every business.
Yeah.
Sitting out there, we just keep telling ourselves
we
we're
just
going to get there.
it's affirmation statements, right?
Exactly.
but it's you got to like dialogue with yourself on some of that.
I'm loving the phone that's been in this podcast all day. Look, if you want to ask a question, just say
raise
so.
your hand.
No, okay, wait. Love this. Actually, you know what? This is making me think of, like, look, the great entrepreneur, business mogul, extraordinaire, and, you know, his famous quote, Jay-Z, around more money, more problems. So, and honestly, this is something I've heard from founders on the show, who have been on the show as well, is them saying that, right? Like, people always think like, oh, that big raise or that big growth spurt or whatever, like, is going to be that the thing that makes all the problems go away. But to your point, it just exposes more cracks, and then it actually, the weight gets more and more and more. So as I grow and scale, I'll be sure to call both of you. As I'm going through it myself. Okay, we are rounding out the conversation here with just a few minutes left. So if anyone does want to engage or ask a question or anything like that, feel free, raise your hand, blurt it out, all that good stuff. But yeah, so think of things before I close the show if you want to ask them. Now, I want to...
one.
Oh, we do? Oh, fabulous. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, Queen. Our audience question here, our fabulous audience member here. The question is, how do you can increase your credibility as you are trying to grow, right, and scale? Like, what does that credibility layer look like? Great question.
I would say credibility comes from providing exceptional client service, right? Great work. And I would say where I've seen mistakes made is someone who jumped into the next project before they were prepared because they wanted the sale, and then lost so much credibility that it took them backwards.
Okay.
It's good.
And
quality, I love that one. Quality is great. Once you have quality and you have a nice little track record, like, you've got to leverage your network. You got to get out and say, who can you introduce me to? I'm doing, like, you have to constantly be pitching. You're just like a walking salesperson.
Yes.
It's almost like it's exhausting. That's what
right, but it's got to come from a place, like, you can't be salesy about it, right? It's got to be genuine. You got to know your work. You got to know your passion, and you have to talk about it all the time, right? And then that gets people excited and they want to know more. So every interaction is an opportunity for you to numerically grow or exponentially grow. So, you know, write down names, follow up with people, connect with them, be intentional about getting to know them, because it's essential.
kind of seeing yourself, like, making yourself almost like a staple in the community that you're a part of, like the network. Like, I think that's something that I've done. One of my greatest credibility hacks, I will say, I am a journalist, so that does help a lot, but like, is interviewing people. You know, and you don't have to be a journalist to interview people. It helps, but like, generally people love being interviewed. Like, they love
talking about themselves.
Look how much, aren't you having a great time? Isn't this wonderful? I was like gathered here today. No, exactly. Like, people love to be interviewed. So what happens is when I do that, or even if you don't interview them, like, you just write about them because you saw their TED Talk or you saw them on a podcast, like, you can just take that, just credit my podcast, right, or whatever, and or credit the TED Talk, and then write about them, send it to them, be like, hey, I just think you're like amazing and you inspire me, and I wrote a story about you, here it is. And for me, that, like, the way that just circulated, and that's really how, for me, I grew FinTech is Femme, was all through that power of that interview, followed by the amplification, followed by the network effect, because then they're forwarding the story to everyone they know, and they're like, sign up for this newsletter, do this thing, listen to her podcast. Like, so that to me is like such a great way to also grow your credibility, but similar, right? Network and just like the community around you. Oh yes, Christine.
So tonight is about honoring women in accounting, but I think about women in any profession. You both mentioned following your gut instinct, a feeling in your bones. Talk a little bit about how you developed that strength when a lot of what we're told or taught is kind of the opposite.
How to build that follow your gut muscle, basically, is the question.
Also, especially for women,
Yeah.
right? When we're kind of taught or told otherwise.
Do you want me to go first on that?
Yeah, you're the,
Who wants to tackle that
you're
one?
the woman of the
Go?
night.
All right. So I would say, as far as following my gut, I learned to follow my gut because I watched it play out when I didn't follow my gut. Right? And we all know what happens, and we're like, oh, I got that feeling going on. This isn't going to work out well. But I think women in leadership, and thank you, men in the room, for supporting women in leadership. Woo. It's just as important.
The men smart enough to support women's work.
I would say that it's a fine balance. Like we always say, you gotta make sure you hold space in the room, but you can't hold too much space. You gotta make sure that you're still, if you have children, not all women have children, but if you have commitments at home, that you honor those commitments, but that people still see you focused on work. So there still is a lot of that going on. I would say, just in my personal journey, I was so blessed because at my firm, we had the first female managing partner of a major firm at the AICPA. That was our managing partner. Our CFO, the year that I was the chair of the board of directors, our CFO was also female, and our managing partner was. So we had there was a lot of estrogen in the room. I actually felt bad for the men sometimes sitting at the table. But what I would really say that was unique for me, and it's still even in Aprio, is that I actually come to the table and I don't feel any different being a woman. So I've actually been incorporated and supportive, and haven't had that situation, but I know that it happens other places. So I'm just fortunate enough that I came up in just an environment. Like even the chair of the AICPA is an Aprio partner, and she's a rock star. Her name's Lexi Kessler, and she was a mentor of mine. But I would say, number one, the gut feeling is real. There's science around it. You do have some things that you get that tickly feeling when there's danger. And I learned more and more over time to listen to that because I was burned when I didn't.
Yeah, and I think you made a great point, though, in terms of surrounding yourself with other incredible women, right? Like that is such a huge. I mean, even just you being lucky enough that it just so happened to be that way. But if you're not in a situation where it just so happens to be that way, then create it, right? Like,
was I lucky enough, or did I grow because I had great role models in front of me?
Girl,
right?
you are right. I don't even like saying lucky. Who said that? Cut that. Anyway. She worked hard. I mean, replace, thank you, editor. Okay, yeah, no, you didn't hear that from me. No, but I actually completely agree. I too have been kind of working my way through like people telling me like, oh, you're lucky for this or that or this or that. And I'm like, or did I work really hard to strategically lay the foundational bricks? We talked about that yesterday on her show.
A lot of bricks.
The foundational bricks, so that my life and my career and things turned out this way.
You charted your own career path.
Exactly. And so thinking of it like that more, oh my gosh, even that makes me like excited to follow my gut, right? Like,
yeah, I would say too, like the gut discussion, it always feels a little ambiguous. Like, well, what is a gut, and how does it speak to you, and how do I know
what is it saying?
So the way I kind of like when I think about that, it's usually something that makes me think, oh, I don't know about that. Like whatever, fill in the blank. It's like, I don't know. And so it doesn't always mean it's a bad thing, but like I always anchor back to, okay, I have this I don't know feeling, and I don't know if it's a good I don't know feeling or an unfamiliar I don't know feeling, and therefore I am just uncomfortable. And so back to the question of like, how do you hone that? Like, how do you develop that? I think just leaning into, okay, there's a situation that I don't know about. Like something is off. I don't have clarity, and I need to go ask questions. I need to go talk to some people in like my mentorship circle. I need to go find somebody who's dealt with this I don't know situation and can maybe give me a little bit of wisdom to it and speak into it. Or I I just need to name the fact that I'm uncomfortable with this. And the reason I don't know is because I'm not sure I want to do it. Right. And do I need to go ahead and take that leap or that? So that's kind of where I tend to go with the gut is, I think it's just telling me I don't know, but that means I need to go learn and ask and be curious and do a little homework before I make a decision.
I love that. I love that.
You know what I love here tonight?
What?
We've like hit on like so many of our firm's fundamentals.
Really?
One
You
of
were
our
saying there are 31 of them or
like
whatever.
there's 31 of them. Please,
Should you list them out?
excessive,
don't
but it's
ask me to like name them all right now.
And we can keep pushing back the drinking. Yeah.
But one of them is be curious.
Yeah,
and that's like really, really important. So what you
Yeah.
said there is it's not always negative. It's like, oh, if I didn't trust my gut and just went with it, it's kind of like, I need more information. And there's somebody way back in the room, and I can hear him saying that line. He's our CFO, Adam Rhymes. And I always hear him go,
Guilty.
well, I don't know. I need more information. And that is really good. He's, you know, curious, and that's how he addresses the gut.
Good. Great.
Really good responses. Okay, we're gonna take one more question before we wrap up because I know I can feel CFO back there ready to drink more. Yeah. He's like, how long do I have to stay quiet? I'm trying to rage. Okay, I can. He was like, I thought this was a wedding celebration, not a podcast here. What the hell is this? And so I got you. All right, I'm getting that espresso martini next. All right, we'll come cheer.
Oh, I'm in for that.
I know.
Yeah,
I think that's
after
what you're
the
drinking
podcast,
there, CFO.
Celebratory.
Yeah. All right. We're all gonna come in for the
Okay.
espresso martini. But first, we will close out with your question, my dear.
Thank you.
To
I
repeat
have
the
the
question really
biggest
quick,
hack.
it's just
Yes.
we're the question is around taking risks, and then when you do enter like a new era of your career, of kind of feeling that like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Why did I take this risk? That's
Yeah.
basically the question.
Right. So I'll tell you just a real quick story. I remember when I thought interviewing, but I wasn't sure for the chief people officer role at my prior company. And I was the youngest, I was the only female, youngest female, blah, 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 whole thing. Brought in this big,
The usual rigmarole.
blah, 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 blah,
Been
right?
there.
Big company, right, to assess me.
Yeah.
If I've, and I'm like, why am I the only one that has to do this? Nobody's ever had to. It's okay. But like, so we go through the whole like 3-hour interview process and assessments and blah, blah, blah. And this wonderful woman who I know today, she gave me like the best advice, like at the end, like after I had the job and it was great. And, you know, she had made the right choice and all this stuff. She's like, Tiffany, you know, like we're not really just looking at your work. Like we know you don't know how to do this next job. We're interested in knowing, do you know what to do? Do you have a strategy that you employ when you don't know what to do?
Oh.
Okay. So yes, every single job I took, I walked up a set of stairs and was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I really have, you know, I don't know these people. I've never done this kind of work before. Like I was not HR by trade when I was chief people officer, which is very comical. like, wow, she's the unlikely choice. But like I did transformations and I loved people. But so I learned to be okay with not knowing what to do. So just like, we're just going to embrace it. But what's your strategy when you don't know what to do, right? It was, for me, it was like, I found somebody who'd done that job before, who did it better, that had a lot of wisdom. I made sure that I had other people in the room who were supportive of me, who, you know, could advocate for me when I wasn't in the room.
Major.
That really understood more deeply my vision and where I wanted to go, because most of the work was transformational, right? So if you can kind of think more about what do I do when I don't know what to do versus, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. It really shifts your mindset and will totally change your outcome and your work.
So well said. All right, Nicole, close us out with your wisdom.
All right. Wisdom. So I think the takeaway for the day is that growth solves a lot of problems. It doesn't solve all of them. I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to align not only their strategy, their technology, their people, but their culture. And also it's really important as a leader and as developing a business to really have that team. That team as a leader is focused on trust and commitment, connect the dots, find the right advisor, and onward and upward to those big exits.
Yeah. Ooh, love it.
good.
We are manifesting big exits for every founder listening to this show in this room, all of us. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we talked about so many things that somehow I didn't get around to talking about AI. So that'll just have to happen.
Dang.
At
A
some
lot of people are talking about AI these days, I think.
You heard?
Just a little.
Did you hear?
Heard.
Okay, I might be having like a whole leadership summit that's all about AI. Okay, anyways, in San Francisco. Be there, but thank you so much. I'll just have to have you both back at some point on my show. But Nicole, Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, for being so open, so honest, and just for vibing with us on this show and in this incredible room. Huge thanks to Ro and, of course, Christine and just the Ro team for putting this evening together.
Thank you.
Yes. Without them, today's live podcast, which I know has been your favorite part of this evening,
Absolutely.
would not be here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a cheers espresso martini moment with the CFO of Aprio in the back. I know I'm going to hold on to that moment for the rest of my life, and this podcast will commemorate that for the rest of our lives. So once again, you can catch the full episode of Humans of Fintech on your podcast feeds, i.e. anywhere you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. And we will keep the conversation going right here tonight. So once again, cheers to you both. Cheers to Nicole, Ro, Aprio, and to everyone that is just building companies that scale smart, lead with heart, and keep human at the center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Humans of Fintech. If you loved it, be sure to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.